There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
Well, there's really been a lot of buzz coming from the Mosconi camp these last couple of weeks, especially when it comes to DSP. We're deep in the middle of the DSP sessions, and today we've got product expert Nick Wingate joining us in the studio to go over some new revisions to the software, as well as a full overview of the huge offering that Mosconi has within the DSP segment. This is CMA Workshop presented by SiriusXM, Mosconi, and it starts now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for tuning in to another CMA Workshop presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And if you're tuning in, that means you're interested in DSP, and rightfully so. You've come to the right place, because today we're featuring a brand that's got a huge history within the segment. They've innovated, they've developed, and they've got a really big offering that are solutions on many levels for some of their products that are really engineered to integrate into OEM systems. But then we also go to the other range, which is super high-end audiophile sound, and we're going to cover it all today. First, let's go ahead and invite our guest from Trends Electronics, who is the Mosconi exclusive distributor for Canada. We have Grant McFadder, their National Sales Director, joining us. What's going on, Grant?
Morning, Ben. How you doing, buddy?
Hi. You know what? We're having a great time here on CMA Networks. We're covering DSP, and I was kind of looking forward to this one because, first of all, you know, our eccentric guest today is so knowledgeable both on the competitive circuit, but also on the tuning side of things, very well respected within the industry. And I'm really excited because in my preamble with Nick, he was, you know, pretty pumped to come on because he's got some new tools and new, you know, tricks up his sleeve that he wants to share with everybody.
Yeah, some new software just got launched, and some new tricks. Like I said, we'll go through that later when we go into the software. But yeah, there's a really easy setup for people that, you know, are scared by DSP.
Well, being scared for DSP really shouldn't even be a thing anymore. We're 2022. It's just a necessity. While I have you, why do you feel that Mosconi is such a class-leading brand within the DSP segment, Grant?
Well, they're one of the, you know, the few companies that started off heavy in DSP. They make their own, which is really important nowadays because it seems like everyone and their dog is coming out with some form of DSP, but it's all made in Italy. So they control the process, they control the quality. And you'll see later on the features that they have in there. They've addressed, you know, all the stuff that we're coming across on the install base side of things with all pass filters and summing, you name it. These guys are, you know, our install techs are coming up with challenges with these new vehicles. They've got a tool to fix every one of them.
Yeah, and you said that right. They have a tool to fix everything. I love the fact that you mentioned, yeah, it's an Italian-based company made in Italy. It's got that European flair that is very attractive to many, this host included. And you said something else. You know, Nick's going to show us how simple it can be, and that's an important theme within all these DSP sessions. I think one of the key messages that all the brands wanted to convey is, you know, DSP is, yes, it's more relevant than ever, but it's also become a very simplified process because of the advancements in the, you know, the software development and so on and so forth. And at the same token, though, and I mentioned that from the hardware perspective, Mosconi can go from real simple all the way to like pro level. I'd like for you to comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know, we're car audio guys. We don't read manuals, so we just, if we open something up and plug it in, it doesn't work out of the box, we're like, oh, this thing's junk, right? No, I mean, DSP can be as simple as you want to make it and as complicated as you want to make it. And I think a lot of times shops get scared off by whether it's the GUI or the software or all these connectors on the back, and I don't know what they do, don't be scared off with it. Like trust me, this guy here is no install tech, and I can make this thing work. So it ain't that hard. Trust me.
Well, that's
if I can figure it out, it ain't that. It ain't.
I'm gonna get you to tune my whip one day, Grant. How about that?
Sure.
Of course, I might have to call in Nick just to supervise. But anyways, we'll see how that.
You don't trust me. I see how it is. All right.
All right. Let's get the mood set here. We've got this great new video that kind of showcases some new stuff. And when we come back, we'll get Nick in here so we can get this presentation underway. We'll be right back.
All right. I'm not sure that was family friendly. That last
No, it
one,
wasn't, but they certainly made a statement. How about that? We'll say that it made a statement for those that want to freeze frame that. All right, so we promised you we'd bring in the expert. We have him standing by. We're going to bring him in. And let's just get to it. He is the national trainer for Orca, who handles Mosconi on the U.S. side of things. And we're happy to have him on once again. Let's get into the studio, Mr. Nick Wingate.
Good morning, gentlemen. How is everybody this morning?
We're doing really well, sir. We're here to learn, and we're talking about DSP, and who better to do that with than with you yourself, sir. I got to ask you a question, Nick. When it comes to the Mosconi offering, I feel, and many like me feel, it really offers an ultimate solution to all things DSP because it covers so many categories and possibilities. I'd like for you to comment on that, please.
Well, it most certainly does. I mean, from a very basic, simple system, quote unquote, where you've got, 6 channels of amplification, front, rear, sub, and we can do just about anything you need to in the sound field as far as processing that, all the way to a complete, 36 channel system if you want to attempt to do that. I don't. I know Grant shaking his head no, but I mean, with the A212 Aerospace, we can daisy chain 3 together, for a new Cadillac Escalade. If anybody wants to tackle that, you're welcome to do it, but don't call me because I'm not coming to tune it. But you're welcome to try, and everything in between. So it's there, the flexibility, the power, it's all there. I mean, you name it, you can solve the problem with these processors. It's really amazing what they have accomplished in a short amount of time.
You say short, but in terms of DSP, it's been, Mosconi's been quite involved from the get-go, offering these type of tools, these type of products. And, as high-end as you want, you mentioned 36 channels. That's pretty crazy. But down to just, upgrading, OEM integration with the low 4-channel, tiny footprint. Yeah. Same software, though. Am I right?
It is when you have the Atomo, when you have the Pico, and when you have the aerospace products. Yes, it is the exact same software. And that covers quite a number of different products.
Amazing. Well, on that note, why don't you give us an overview, Nick? What's on the menu today? What are we going to cover today?
Well, we're going to take a look at the graphic user interface, the latest version of it. I'm going to be showing everybody there's an awful lot of misunderstanding about how simple this unit can be, this software can be. There are shortcuts that I'm going to show everybody how the shortcuts to set your system up. No matter how complicated it can be, we literally can have you ready to basically almost hand the keys to the customer in 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes. Not that I'm going to time you or anything, but that's pretty quick. And are we going to cover any hardware in this presentation, Grant?
Yeah, we're going to go through the basic lineup of the processors and amplifier DSP combo pieces. So we have 13 different models of DSP or integrated DSP into an amplifier. So a lot of product, probably as many as anybody out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is some class-leading stuff. I'm excited to learn all about it. Let's go ahead and get your presentation up, and we'll take it away, gentlemen.
So the first slide I put up was our entry-level piece, which is our Tomo 4-6. The big thing in the back is what it was supposed to be an animation on this slideshow, but it doesn't show it. The idea was to make it look like really big, but the thing is tiny. It'll fit in the palm of your hand. So, no more, I don't have room to put this anywhere. If you can put a pack of cigarettes or a flashlight or some sort into your vehicle, you can put this DSP in there. So this piece is 4-channel in, 6-channel out, optical input, as good as it gets as far as the software goes as the aerospace product. But this is really designed for that small compact vehicle. We got a bunch of guys using these motorcycles because the DSP is so small.
Yeah, that's absolutely. That's what I was going to say. This is a big tool in bikes today.
Yeah, and super easy to use. Especially on a bike. You're not having to sum channels on a bike currently anyway. You're not having to deal with all pass filters and bikes and all this kind of stuff. So you can do the easy setup on this and be done really, really quickly. So that's the first piece in the lineup is the 4-6. Then we go into the step-up product from the Tomo is the 6-8 Pro, which is 6 channels of input, 8 channels of out, and then 8-channel in, 12-channel out on the Pro as well. So those are the step-up from the Tomo product. And then if you want the Cadillac of these products, we also offer them in an aerospace, which is the next slide, which is the 8-12 aerospace and a 6-8 aerospace. Basically the same units, but internally they're using much higher grade audiophile components in it. So the guy that wants the best of the best, wants absolute pure sound quality, these are the ones to go to. And it's not much more money. You're talking about a couple $100 at retail more to go to from the Pro product to aerospace. So the guys that want the best of the best, that's what they're going to go with is aerospace. We sell more aerospace than we do Pro. From there, we go into the integrated amplifier products. So next slide up will be the Picos, I believe. Yep. So in the Pico series, we have 4 different products with integrated amplifiers. We've got the 4-8 DSP, with the 6-8 DSP, 8-10 DSP, and a 8-12 DSP. So good lineup of products there, all different types of power. Next slide, we'll get into some more specifics of the hardware itself. So on the 8-12 amplifier with DSP and the 8-10 DSP, you've got staggered power on there. The 8-10, you've got 80/4. Yeah, I've got one of those guys here too. This is an 8-10, I believe. So super small.
Doing my best, Vanna.
Pretty much mount anywhere. Nick, you're a good-looking Vanna. I'm a better Pat Sajak than Vanna. So the 8-12, so 8 channels in, obviously 12 channels of output, 8 channels of amplification as well. And the 8-10 is 8 channels of amplification with a 10-channel DSP. And then if you don't need that much processing or that much amplification, we go down to the 6-8 DSP and the 4-8 DSP products. So less channels of amplification, but still give you lots of outputs to expand onto your system. So that rounds out Pico. And then we go into the 1 series where currently we have 2 amplifiers of DSP. There's the DSP 130.4, a DSP 90.8, and a brand new piece coming out, which we don't have all the details on it yet, but there's a 100.6 DSP. So that's a 100 watt by 6 RMS with a DSP amplifier or DSP processor built in as well. This is the 1 series amplifiers. So, fairly, standard size amplifiers. So not tiny, but this is like a standard amplifier you would install in a car. All made in Italy. It's got the Play Italian logo on there. But super big power amplifiers, class A, B, sound incredible. But if you don't have the room for these, you can go down to the Picos. As you can see, it's about just under half the size to do a Pico. So if you're tight for space, we can do the Picos or the 1 series if you've got some room. And then kind of like the Cadillac Again, this just dropped days ago. We have the brand new coming soon Pro Series 830 DSP, which everyone's goo goo gaga on the Facebook Gladen site and Mosconi sites and stuff like that. They're all, when's this coming? How much is it going to be?
Yeah.
One thing that makes this completely unique over other products that have DSP built in the amplifier is the amount of power. Like, it's a beast. 4 ohms, you're 90 by 4 RMS with a 4 channels of 170 by 4. All bridgeable, which other competitor products, some of them don't allow you to bridge the amplifier. We do. The back half of that, the 170 by 4, can turn into 450 by 2 when you bridge it. So big power. Chassis size is exactly the same as a Pro 430 or a Pro 530. So it's the same 30 series chassis. That's not the correct image on the bottom there because I don't have an image of it yet. All I've got is the sneak peek of the top section of it with the DSP inputs there. Yeah. So this will be, I don't think Nick's even got information on when it's going to be shipping or pricing on it yet, but it's going to be coming soon. If it's anything like the 430, we found out 2 days after we did the show. So it will be coming soon. It's not a unicorn. It is being built. It will be shipping very, very soon.
Yes, it will be here soon.
So, I mean, that's really the quick rundown on the 13 different products we have for it. This is off of the new Gladen Mosconi website. So if you haven't checked this out, go to gladen.com. It's a much nicer, way updated, modern website. You can go on here, go to the support section, download the software. And this is the new software that shows you this one software piece does all these products. So if you're scared of learning multiple different processors or programs, we've got you covered to do it with one, basically. And then this is obviously showing that it's live. So this is the Pro 830 DSP. So this is not, again, it's not a unicorn. This is real. This Pro 830 piece. So I'm stoked to see that because we like selling really high-end, big power, and they're not cheap, but it's hell of a lot of fun. So that's really it for the slideshow. Nick's got he's going to do a full rundown of some basic setups, an easy setup.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring up the software, Ben, for that, Nick will go through the basic, or what we call the easy setup mode for those people that think this is complicated. And yeah, when you click this open and if you activate Pro mode, the screen fills up pretty quick and you can get pretty intimidated. Just like you go to a concert, you see a mixing board, and you go, what the hell? Like, how does the guy know which dial to push? we can do that too. So this can be a little bit intimidating, but Nick, why don't you show them the easy setup function so that anyone that looks at this and gets scared, they can say, oh, I can do that.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So Grant is correct. There are 2 modes to this. There's one that's known as the basic mode, which is what we're in right now. And then there's the Pro mode, and you see what happens. Now, you don't have to get in the Pro mode to tune a car, especially if it's front rear sub. Stay in the basic mode. You can get there in a hurry. It's not hard whatsoever. Okay, so staying in the basic mode. The first thing that everybody always asks me is input signal. How do you route it? And it's really, really simple. If you look at the top up here, here is your input. These are your channels. This represents your 8 analog inputs because we're working with the 8-12 aerospace. And you also have the digital input. Okay. So if you are going to determine which inputs you want to use, take your cursor, go all the way over to the mixer where I have it right now, and you see these 2 wheels. You click on it, and your setup opens up. Now, this represents your analog inputs, channels 1 through 8. This will be your RCA inputs, and 9 and 10 is represented for the digital input. You'll notice across the front, this is real simple because here it is. You've got front, you've got rear, and you've got center and sub, and you have an auxiliary output as well if you need it. Now, most of the time, you're not going to need this auxiliary output. But if you are in a hurry or you're trying to figure out what's going on as far as the signal is concerned, this is going to be easy to do. If you have one set of analog inputs, click on your easy setup and look at this. It says choose a default setting. So if you've got, let's say we've got an Amp Pro piece or an AV TV piece, and we're going to use a Ford we're in a Ford F-150. And we've got one set of analog outputs going to the DSP. Choose which inputs you want to use. If it's choose channel 1 and 2 or channel 3 and 4. Let's choose channel 3 and 4. Right now, everything has been set to where your channels 1 through 6 is set up to where left and right is 100% signal input. Your rears, which is 7, 8, 9, and 10, is set up for 100% input. And either with a center channel or a pair of subs, you're getting 100% input. Cannot be any simpler. You're getting 20 to 20,000 hertz worth of signal right there. You've got all of your channels have been set automatically as far as the input is concerned. Now, if you've got something like front rear sub input, this is what you do. You go to step 3 and click on step 3. So it gives you analog input front, analog input rear, and also gives you your subwoofer. Now, if you have a separate subwoofer output, off of, let's say, an aftermarket head unit, this is real simple. You clear this out. And turn this on. So now here's your front inputs. Here's your rear inputs. Here's your sub inputs. This is your front outputs, your rear outputs, your sub outputs. Grant, can it be any easier?
No, and I like that feature on the sub output too, because that way you can keep your subwoofer level control from your or your aftermarket head unit active, and you don't have to use a separate DRC either, right? So it makes it really, really simple as far as making that work off your aftermarket head unit.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have, again, like we're using the NAV TV piece or the Amp Pro piece, and you have a digital output, hit 6, connect everything to the digital side, and guess what? You're done. Cannot be any simpler. Now, I've had somebody ask me, how do I do summing with this? Because this is kind of confusing. And okay, I get you. I understand that. So one of the things that I like to do is this. I'll go back to connect all outputs to input 1 and 2. Okay. Now, if we're going to sum and we're coming off of an OEM amplifier, we know we're looking for high frequency input, mid-range input, bass input coming out of the factory amplifier. Okay. And so that means that we're probably going to take a pair of RCAs and we're going to plug them into channels 1 and 2. We're going to take a pair of RCAs and plug them into input channels 3 and 4. And we're probably going to plug it into 5 and 6. Because if you've got a 3-way in the car, you're going to have to do some summing. If it's a 2-way, you still have to do some summing. So let's take the 2-way, for instance, first. We've identified a high frequency output off of the OEM amp, and we're coming into input 1 and 2. Everything is set up. We are ready to go as far as high frequencies. If we've gone off the OEM and we found a mid-bass driver that plays all the way down, a mid-bass signal that plays all the way down to 20 hertz, you plug, you tie on to the factory amp with your RCAs, and this is all you do is mimic what's been done up top. Excuse me. Okay. Now, we're summed. High frequency, low frequency. We're good to go. Do I need the high frequencies on my sub? Here, no, because we don't have any. So you can clear this out. Now, if it's a three-way, we got high, mid, low, and our mid-range is input here. Take your mid-bass and input it here and do the exact same thing. And this is where you're also going to find your subwoofer frequencies. Excuse me. And this is where you're going to do left and right, or you're just going to do mono. It's either one. It's up to you. And I don't need the low frequencies here because it's mid-range, and we've identified my mid-bass as where it's playing down to 20 hertz. It cannot be any simpler. Grant, you understand what I just did?
Yeah, I mean, you took a three-way setup and summed it all together to give you full range on the input. So now you can do whatever you want on the mixer on the output side.
That's it. And now we can do anything we want as far as fronts, rears, subs. We're good to get started because I'm 20 to 20,000 hertz on channels 1 through 12 if necessary. You can do it. Can't be any simpler. So that's the easy. This is where this easy setup button comes into play. And this is one of the things that's really cool about this version of the graphic interface. And again, this is with the Otomo product, the Pico product, and all of the aerospace product. And the new 830 Pro will have this software, and the 100.6 will have this software. And so, yeah, they're making this as easy as they possibly can. So now that we've done this, let's talk about what kind of system do we have? What are we working with? So I know that Grant's a big fan of three-ways. And so what I'm going to do is we're actually going to build a three-way system, okay? So let's say right now that we're going to be using a tweeter, a 3-inch mid-range, and a 6.5-inch mid-bass up front. So what you want to do to make this as quick as possible is come down there and click on this button that says Set Up Wizard. Okay. This is going to make your lives so much easier. It's not even funny. Now you're going to notice that there's a database that is being loaded. And you're going to notice that this will be active off of preset number 1. It asks you, what kind of car do we have? So, Grant, what are you driving today?
SUV.
So that's going to be something that would be big. So if you've got smart car, something small, something like a Mini, use a Toyota Corolla 2-door, something like that, you would choose small. If you've got mid-compact cars, such as like a Honda Accord, Toyota Corolla, something like that, choose mid-compact. If it's a truck or an SUV, it would be big, and obviously a van would be a van. We're done there. You're going to choose your front system. Grant likes 3-way active systems, so I'm going to choose a 3-way active. Now, notice it's going to ask you to choose a tweeter. Now, as Mosconi is paired with the folks at Gladen. Gladen gives you an opportunity to choose any of the Gladen tweeters. Now, you don't have to. If we're using Illusion Audio, for instance, you would come down to here and choose Tweeter Universal at 3.8K because this is where they're going to cross it over at. Okay. It's not 100% necessary to do that if you are aware of what each one of these tweeters has as far as a free air resonance, as far as the off axis response, power handling. But I will tell you that this works. I have tuned 6 different vehicles utilizing this function already, just choosing universal, and it works brilliantly. So if we're going to do, let's just say Illusion Audio, and we're doing a pair of C3s with a carbon 8, I'm going to choose universal tweeter, and I'm going to put it on outputs 1 and 2.
Nick, how many tweeters in the world would like a crossover point of 3.8K?
I don't know of a tweeter that wouldn't.
All right, just making sure.
Yep. It's kind of a sweet spot for it's a 3-inch mid-range, 4-inch mid-range, especially in the 3-way. So again, we're going to choose our mid-range, and I'm going to choose this because we're using a carbon 3. So 100 millimeters of 4-inch driver, it's close enough. It works. And I'm going to do on output 3 and 4. And my mid bass, I've got a universal mid bass. And you see this is an 8, that 200 millimeter mid bass, because we're using a carbon 8. And I'm going to put that on output 5 and 6. Rear and the trunk. All right. So Grant, where are we going to put the sub? In the trunk, under your seats? Where are we going to do this?
In the trunk, in the hatch.
The trunk. Okay. And seal box, vented box.
Vented.
Okay. And how big's the driver?
12s.
Carbon 12s. So you see right down here where it says subwoofer universal. You can choose that if you want to, but if you also kind of understand that 12 in a vented box works really well, there's an SQX12, which means that driver has a lot of X-Max. I happen to know Grant's taste in music. I know what he likes. He listens to rap and hip hop all the time. So I'm going to choose that driver.
You forgot my hair metal. You forgot my hair metal.
Well, shit.
Hair Nation, channel 39.
There you go. Hair Nation 39. And I'm going to put this on output 11 and 12. We're going to put rears in your car.
Yeah, we'll just go coaxes in the back.
Okay. So that's a passive networks being utilized and a 6.5-inch coax, RC165 coaxial. Any of the coaxials up here will work as long as it's the right size. And seeing as we're using 6.5-inch coaxials, we're going to choose that, and I'm going to put it on output 7 and 8. Now, boys and girls, all we do now is hit store it in preset 1. Watch what's going to happen over here with your crossover, your delay, your level, and your phase. You're done.
Good
What
enough for
they have
75.
done. Sir?
Good enough for 75 out of 100 people to be done right
That's
there.
exactly right. You literally can hand the keys to somebody right now, and they probably are going to be really happy if they're not an audiophile or if they haven't heard a high-end car audio system that has been tuned to the max. Now, everything will be in phase. Everything will work extremely well, and it's going to sound pretty good. The reason you're seeing this type of delays and these levels is the Mosconi and Gladen engineers. What they have done is they've taken the average width and length of an automobile, taken into account the Theo Small parameters of a 3-inch average driver, the average tweeter, the average mid bass, the average subwoofer. And what they've done is they've calculated an average. So when you listen to this and you fire it up, it's going to sound really, really good. Now, can we go to an IASCA competition and go win? No, but that's the vast majority of your customers are not IASCA competitors. Are they going to like the way this sounds? Yes. Can you make it sound better? Sure. That's where you would go in and you would fire up the EQ, and you could EQ the system from this point, which would take probably another 15 or 20 minutes. And then you're going to make 85 out of 100 people happy. That's when you just fire up the RTA and take care of your problems. You take the peaks out of the system. And, everybody knows that you can go in here and you can do a left and a right separately and make it better, and you can fine tune it. And then we can change this, these values can be changed. Like instead of 630 Hertz, I got a nasty peak at 600. Okay, fine. Well, we can change that and make it 600, and then I can take care of this nasty peak. It's that simple. It really and truly is this easy. It's a way of getting your customers in and out as fast as possible. And they're going to be happy with this, the vast majority of them. Now, that's about as easy as it gets. Now, having said that, I know a lot of you are been really unhappy with having to build a 24 dB per octave slope, and you're having to go into this and you have to type, you have to access 2 high pass filters, use 2 Butterworth 12s, type in the filter. They know that. This is a new feature for this graphic user interface. This is if you want to go in and fine tune the system. Okay, you with me, Grant?
I'm with you.
Okay. So right now, we've got a high pass on the tweeters at 3,800 hertz. Now, if I want to build a 24 dB per octave slope, normally I would have to go and do another high pass and type in 3,800 hertz. Okay, which is not that difficult to do. But wouldn't it be easier if I just had this? I want a Linkwitz Raleigh 24 dB. And if I can't get it exactly with the slider, I type in 3,800. You're done. Thank you. This is something you guys have been clamoring for. Here it is. It's on every individual channel of output as far as crossover is concerned. You go in here, you choose either Linkwitz, Bezel, Butterworth, or Chebyshev. You type in the frequency, you choose your slope, you're done. You can build a high pass, you can build a low pass, or you can build a band pass. It's that simple. Like if we were going to go over here, I've got a high pass and a low pass here. It looks like 30 hertz to 108 hertz. Okay, fine. So what I want now is I'm going to go build a high pass. I'm going to do a Linkwitz. I want to do it at 12 dB, and I'm going to do it at 30 hertz. It's that simple. And I want to do a low pass at 108. So I've got a Butterworth here. I've got 12 dB here. Type in 108 right here. Clear this out. Clear this out, because if you leave these on, you're going to get a 24 dB per octave slope because these are still active. Now, what happens is right now I have an additional 10 bands of either equalization, some shelving that I can build, some notch filters I can build, or I can correct things with an all-pass filter if necessary. So that is an awful lot of power for each individual speaker in the car. And again, this is if you want to take it to the next level. Okay. This, a lot of people have asked me about, called Phase C, this analyzer. And what this does is it allows you to correct phase problems that take place when you choose filter types between a tweeter and a mid-range, or a mid-range and a mid-bass, or a mid-bass and a subwoofer. Okay. So I know a lot of you may be wondering what's Nick exactly trying to show us. Well, let me show you. We're going to open up a frequency chart. And this is part of the software in which you can see just exactly what's going on. Now you notice right here, you saw my 630 hertz a little while ago that I turned down because we had a problem at 600. I changed it. Here it is. Okay. Now, if I want to show the crossover networks that I've chosen, here they are, and I'm just going to do the right channel. Okay. Here is my representation of a 24 dB per octave slope at 3,800. Here's the crossover between the mid-range and the tweeter. Everybody sees this. This is really easy to understand. And here's our crossover point. Now, because of the alignment or the type, which are Butterworths that I've chosen, you're going to notice something. These two lines, and I know let me show you something. Okay. This is the phase trace. Now, those of you who have been fooling around with the JL Max, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. This is showing you the phase right here. You can see here's the slope, 24 dB per octave slope. Here's the tweeter. We crossed the tweeter at 3,800 hertz, right? Notice these two lines do not line up together. If you look right down here, right, notice between channel 1 and channel 3, there's a significant phase shift that's taking place. It's represented right here. This needs to be
easy to see because it's numerical. Super easy to see. You know, even if you don't know what the graph means, you can see it numerically there. That
yeah, you can see it right here. These don't match up in any way, shape, or form. So we need to correct that. So the way to do this is you go to the very last filter type, activate phase C. You'll notice that channel 1 is ghosted out. It's set to 0. And I need to correct it to channel 3 with the mid-range. And it is corrected. Same thing for the right. Channel 2 to channel 4. And you notice now channel 1 and 2 are almost exactly in phase with each other, and 3 and 4 are almost exactly in phase with each other. And if you look, the phase trace, they line up perfectly. You can literally hear this sitting in the car. I mean, I've demonstrated this to Grant. You turn it off and you turn it on. It's amazing how different this sounds. It is way more coherent. It is way cleaner. And if you, as you notice, it takes 30 seconds to do this. And you can do this between tweeter to mid-range, mid-range to mid-bass, mid-bass to subwoofer, front to rear, same thing. It's just as easy as just clicking. So again, I'll show you. We're going to fix the mid-bass to here, to the mid-range. Now notice it says minus 99. I can't go minus. Okay. But the way that this works is that right now it's close. Now notice both of these are 177 degrees. That means you're done. You don't have to worry about it. It's that simple. It is a very, very powerful tool. Those of you who have used the JL Max tuning system, they'll show you how to do this manually to go in and figure it out. And it's a big part of it. And if you don't have the Mosconi software and you're using somebody else's, you got to go in, use that tool, go figure out the phase alignment between each driver. It takes a lot of time to do it. This is just a matter of clicking a few buttons and open a few windows up, and you're done. Again, it's keeping things as simple as we can possibly make it. How about that?
It's super simple. The challenge has always been, whether it's our brand or someone else's, is whoever's tuning the vehicle knowing the software. This is not something you want to practice on at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon when the car's being delivered at 6.
No.
So instead of updating your Facebook profile or your Instagram page, or while you're in the washroom in the morning doing your paperwork, take your laptop in there and play with the software and learn it, because that'll make it simpler for you.
Yeah.
The easiest, example I can give you is if, I do a lot of work on Excel with spreadsheets and stuff like that. If I give someone a spreadsheet that's never worked on Excel before and say, here, I need this done in an hour, they're not going to have it done in an hour. It's the same thing as us going in the back and telling our techs, hey, here's this brand new piece of DSP and you got to install that and tune it in 3 hours. It ain't going to happen because you don't know the software. So
no.
In your downtime, learn the software. I've heard that our software is complicated. Look, man, it's as complicated as you want to make it. We can get rid of all those boxes on the screen by going into basic mode and getting out of pro mode.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to activate all this product. All these tools are there if you need a solution to fix a problem. If you don't have any problem, you can do the basic, easy setup. And I'm telling you, 75, 80% of the people out there, whether you're, you know, propeller head DSP guy or, you know, a guru sales guy on the sales floor, you listen to that system, it's going to sound pretty damn good on the basic.
Oh, it will. I mean, we did it at Knowledge Fest in Orlando. We did a demonstration with it was an aerospace three-way, a Gladen aerospace three-way with a pair of RSX 6.5-inch subwoofers in this 2002 911. And all we did was use the setup wizard, and that was it. I mean, literally, we did the setup wizard, we did the phase C, and that was it. And people would get into the car and they get out and look at you and go, "How long did it take you to tune this car?" 5 minutes. What? Oh, there's no way. It took us literally 5 minutes. And when it's you know as well as I do, Grant, you've got to do your homework. You've got to do your basics. You've got to get everything lined out and ready to go. Tune the amps, you know, You've got to do that in every respect before you get to this point. But once you get to this point, it is literally, you can get it done in 5 to 10 minutes. And people will just be like amazed. It literally works this easily, you know. So I tell everybody, right, you know, that in the basic mode, if it's a basic tune and your customer is not one of these folks that wants it to do imaging and staging in depth and height and three-dimensionality, you're going to get some of this. Yes, you will. But is it something that they absolutely positively need and they tell you no? Guess what? And that's 75 to 80% of everybody that we have that are customers of ours. Use these functions. It's really, really easy to do. It's not hard. So
I would agree. It's duplicatable. So guys that, whether you got the golden ear, the guy that does all the tuning at the end of the day with the golden ear, some shops or most shops I know have one of those guys or owners.
Yeah.
But you know, this will get anybody at the tail ready to go and happy with the system on it. So that's what I like about this easy setup. It's super easy.
And I couldn't agree with you more. You know, and again, it's in the basic mode. You're not having to go in the pro mode, which I know a lot of folks go, "Oh, what is this?" You don't have to go there. Again, you can stay right here, do what we just showed you, do it in that order. Guess what? You're done.
As far as software, I think that's basically what we're going to cover today. We don't want to go too deep on it. One of my favorite features we're going to cover on another session, I believe, the cross mix and stuff, but that's a whole different session on its own. So,
yes.
And I think for the software today, that's probably about as deep as we're going to go on it. The idea was to show people, you know, take away some of those myths that the Mosconi software is super complicated and hard to use. I guess if you looking at this for the first time, it can be intimidating, but I think you said you've played with the software or been looking at it, and it's getting a lot easier. So the more times you play with it,
I'm definitely going to comment on that, Grant. You know, you said a great example. The first time you look at Excel sheets, it's pretty intimidating as well, right? I mean, you're looking at Excel, you don't know where to go. How do you do this? And and this is to any software, not just specific to Mosconi. Any software, you got to play with it to get comfortable with it. Now, having said that, to your comment, Grant, obviously I've sat into many of these, and I've had the opportunity to sit with the best trainers in the business. And yeah, this one definitely is very efficient at getting you set up quickly. And the reason for that, I believe, and this is my opinion, that setup wizard that you showed in the beginning to get the channel sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
There's other softwares. It's the same process. This shortened because the computer does it for you. Basically, you just have to input what it needs, and it spits out on the other side. What gets crazier is the crossover setup. That is even, you know, it's an elevated level of efficient. On that note, Nick, if you don't mind, I want to ask you a question on that. During the setup stage, you know, you kind of talked about how Obviously, when you get into the menus of choosing and building your system and choosing the drivers as you go through the process, the setup wizard, it gives you the options preloaded of, Gladen product, if that makes sense. And you made the remark that it doesn't really matter. And Grant asked about, tweeters at that frequency. If I was a shop and I was a tech and I'm putting this in for the first time, to what point does it not matter? As far as the tweeter, the mid-range, the mid-bass, so on and so forth. Like, are you recommending taking the universal every time?
Well, here's the thing. When you always, for me, you always want to choose the tweeters first, because the crossover frequency for the tweeter is really going to determine the crossover frequency for the mid-range. If it's a two-way or a three-way, doesn't matter. Okay. So, and when you're talking about beam, the big one for me is always about the beam patterns. There are certain size speakers, with the exception of focal and profile, they are going to start to beam at certain frequencies. It is physics. So like a 3.5-inch driver will start to beam somewhere between 3,200 and 3,800. A 4-inch will be a little bit lower in frequency. A 5.25 will be lower. A 6.5 is around 2.5K. So when you're talking about dispersion patterns and beam patterns, that is the reason why when you're talking about a 6.5-inch mid-bass driver, you need to choose a 6.5. If you're using a 3.5, you need to choose a 3.5 or a 4. If you're using a 5.25, you need to choose a 5.25. Again, the tweeter is going to determine everything. Okay. If I had chosen a aerospace 28 millimeter, like what I have on my truck, that crossover frequency would have been 1,800 hertz, because that driver plays that low. So the next step I would have taken to choose would be a 3.5. The 3.5 is crossed at 1,650 hertz. All of that information is in this algorithm. They have done extensive research on crossover theory, crossover slopes, the width of the car, delay because of the width of the car. All of that has been taken into consideration with this setup wizard. This took some time. This took a lot of research and a lot of time to set this up. And I will tell you that those of you who are contemplating becoming a Gladen speaker dealer, I will tell you, I will encourage you, get some of them in, go fully active, fire up this wizard and use the exact same speakers. You are going to be amazed. I had my truck tuned. I'm going to be the first person to tell you this. I have an aerospace 3-way system up front. I have an aerospace 2-way center channel. I have aerospace 10s in the back of my truck. I mean, it's elaborate. I use this setup wizard. And when I got through with this setup wizard, totally from a timbre standpoint, my truck sounded better.
Nick Wingate, could not beat the computer?
Nope. I was floored by how much better.
It's already with a guy smarter than us, right?
Well, the thing of it is, and this is where you understand, these are the guys that build the drivers. They know everything about those speakers. What they know is in this setup wizard. It's amazing. I tuned a truck with Illusion Audio the other day. Same thing. It was a pair of carbon 3s with a carbon 8, and it had a Raven 12 XL. Yeah, sucks to be him. And I tuned that truck using this setup wizard, just using, the generic. Yeah, I got in it and went, okay, this was way too easy. I now can take it the rest of the way. Again, it's a tool. Mm-hmm. It's to help you get there faster, and if you want to take it further, take it further. There's nothing that says you can't. But
all right, you can always go back and fine tune and move the little frequency.
Oh, absolutely.
Do whatever you need to do, but it gets you 75-80% of the way there. And I just wanted to know how critical, selecting each driver was at that process. Now I'm going to fast forward to something that you didn't touch on, but I could not help but notice, and I know you've mentioned in the past, and I'll be honest, this is going to come off topic a bit. I know we're talking about setup. I want to talk
That's
about
fine.
this for tuning. That software features a unique opportunity to connect a binaural microphone. I noticed that button up there. Is that a game changer? And can you give us a little bit more intel on that?
Yes, it is. Let me get to the measuring section.
Okay, if you don't mind, let's bring up that screen share for a second, Sheldon. We want to see.
Bring the screen back
section.
up. There we go.
Thank you.
All right. So this has a built-in RTA function in the unit itself. And what you can do is you can run a sine suite through it, and it's going to give you 20 to 20,000 hertz, and it's going to draw the curve. You can do a left, you can do a right, you can sum them together, but you also notice something right here. It says is binaural analysis. What they want you to do as for like the engineers that literally design the software, there are microphones out there that are called binaural, and they have it. What they're doing is stereo input utilizing human ears. A lot of the microphones out there, they're embedded in a reasonable facsimile of a human ear, and there's a left and the right, and it's either the space of a human head or there is a human head. You know, not a real one, obviously, but a plastic version.
Thanks for that clarification.
Or a rubber. Wow, you know how people are. Nick said, "Cut somebody's head off." Oh, what the hell? You know?
Yeah.
But there is a thing, and I don't want to go deep into this, but there's something called head effect that takes place when you're sitting and you're using only one microphone. You're not taking into account the width between here and here. That there is a phase shift that can take place here, and these microphones help eliminate those problems. It measures the left with both left and right microphones, and it measures the right with both left and right microphones, and takes into account the width of your human head. And when you click on binaural analysis, it gives you a finer detailed analysis of the frequency response wrapping around your head. So yes, if you want to just use a measurement mic, a standard regular microphone that we all have.
Is there more work involved with that signal once you have it?
No.
So then
Not at all.
the reason I asked that is, if you're going to use this software, if you're going to commit to this, why not get the binaural microphone? It seems like it just gets you more accurate data.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the big one that I find is when you're doing channel delay. Because if you want to do this, and I think this is we're going to do something in the future. You and I have talked about this. Is we're actually going to show somebody how to use what is known as the Dirac pulse system. This is an impulse response in which you can set the binaural microphones up in the car, and you can set it up, and I can click on measure, and it will go click, 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 click. The binaural microphones measure, and it will set the time automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do, and these individual, you see left and right, correspond to these green inputs and outputs. Here's your front, your rears, and sub. Your front, your rears, and sub. This is the left, and this is the right. And once you do this, you hit this right here. It says calculate values and send to the DSP. It calculates it and sends it. And yeah, it's pretty doggone amazing what it can do. There's a representation over here that when you start, like let me just do something real quick. Let me enter 40 inches, which you can do this manually, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to do so.
By manually, you mean measure a tape and get the distance and input.
Yeah,
the distance.
just take a measuring tape and measure it out. Let's say this is 62. This we're going to build a three. We're going to build a two-way real quick. This is 55, and we'll make this 69.
What Nick's entering is the distance from the driver for the
right. You'll notice over here, it's showing you in relationship to the phantom center image in the car where the speakers are, as far as we're measuring them is concerned. And you'll notice it's measuring, it's given, like if it is 77 inches in length, This is the amount of time it's going to take for it to get there. Now, once you measure this, and if I had calculate values and send to the DSP, it's going to look for the 0 speaker and it's going to calculate it, but it's also going to notice it is also turning things down in relationship to the length of the wave, because it knows that if you're on the far right-hand side of the car, it is further away, and you're probably going to have to turn the left down to the right. It sets this automatically, and it will also measure polarity and phase. If one of these drivers needs to be out of phase, it will show right here in phase what needs to take place. It'll say normal, and it will, or it says 0 out of phase. It does all of it. And the binaural microphones do a fantastic job with it. That's the reason why I really stress to our dealers to, buy a set of binaural microphones. They're like $350 US.
All right.
And they're not expensive. Of course, and if you want to go up in resolution, feel free to do so. I know somebody that's got a set that's about $8,000, and they use them every single solitary day. Do you need that? No, it's not necessary. I use my $350 set when I'm tuning trucks and cars all the time.
All right. And it's to be clear, it's not a real human head. Just wanted to repeat that.
No, it's not a real human head.
While we have you on the screen, I just want to dig one level deeper into that really neat feature that I think is really neat. I think it's a game changer, is that phase seek. So you always hear, but then if I get into DSP, then, it's cool, we get the first thing. But what if we run into phase issues? And then, fixing phase issues is a whole other ball of wax. And I've gone into these situations where just, frustration sets in. Grant, sure. I think you know what I'm talking about when it comes to phase issues. It comes up often in conversation. Could you dive a little bit deeper in how much of a game changer tool that is within the software, Nick?
It's huge. Let's go back 40 years. Okay. Before we had the digital signal processing. Okay. One of the things that you learned when you're building home cabinets, home speakers, is you either like, I'm going to use my hands. Okay. If this is a tweeter and this is a mid-range and they're on the same plane together, okay, the tweeter's ahead of the mid-range because the voice coil's ahead of the voice coil of the mid-range. And there's a phase shift that takes place. So either you had to go build a passive network with coils and resistors and capacitors and diodes and oh my God, or you had to do this. You lean the cabinet back and you align the mid-range to the tweeter voice coil this way. Okay. Now, there is still going to be a problem, and we could never overcome it because with a 12 dB proactive slope, let's just say, which was standard, which would be a Linkwitz Riley or a Butterworth, between mid-range and tweeter, there's a phase shift. Okay. We always know it. And that's the reason why, if you look right here, this is a 12 dB proactive slope being utilized on the mid-range, and you must run the driver 180 degrees out of phase to compensate for the phase shift that takes place when you have a 12 dB and a 12 dB proactive network that comes together. There's a phase shift. Now, what most people don't know is when you take a look at a fully active system and you're using a 12 dB and a 12 dB or a 12 and an 18 or whatever you're going to use, because of the shape of the curve that you're choosing, I think maybe the best way to do it is like this. Let me just do this. Because you see right here, there is a difference in the way these look. There is a difference in phase right here. And no matter what kind of delay that you do, you can't correct this 100% unless you use an all-pass filter to correct for the phase difference. If you're using a Linkwitz Riley 12 and a Linkwitz Riley 12, there is a phase shift, and you have to compensate for it. this way. You've got to go in there and you have to align it the rest of the way, because these frequencies right here are not going to line up. They may line up right here, but they won't line up out here. And this is the area where I'm worried about it right now, because beyond, if you're looking at this point and out, there's very little phase shift. This point and out, there's very little phase shift. But notice where these slopes take place, there is a phase difference right here. This compensates for it. That's what phase C does. That's what this does right here. You know, again, and I will tell you that, you know, I applaud the guys at JL Audio for what they've done with the JL Max, and it shows this with the microphones they use. It shows the phase variance between each one. Ben, I know you've gone through that training with them. You know, how many steps did they show you have to do to fix this?
It's about a 4-step process.
We do it by clicking right here, just by saying, okay, I got to fix this. Choose you see what happens is once you choose this, then you say, okay, I need to fix this. Notice down here it says this is a first order all pass filter at 3,422 hertz, and it set the all pass filter and it corrects for it.
Yes, sir.
It's that simple and easy. And it is a very, very powerful part of that. I cannot stress this enough. Those of you who use the software, you have not done this, sit in the car and listen to some music and go correct tweeter to mid, mid to bass, bass to sub, and listen to the difference. You're going to be amazed.
Phase C.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now you're digging deep, man.
Yep. He went there. It wasn't
He
me.
went there. I got a haircut.
Yeah, no kidding. It's the reason I was like, okay, Ben, you want to go there? We'll go there. I think one of the things that we probably should do in the future, and I know we're live, is we might go and set up a system, and then like we just did with the quick tune, and then let's take it from that step and fine tune it and show everybody via real time with an RTA, and they can see the difference in what's going on. They'll see how smooth the frequency response becomes even before we EQ anything.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Nick, we can go and take down this screen share. It's really more of an opinion I want to hear from you. You know, you've heard Grant mention it. DSP in general still intimidates many, but when it comes to the Mosconi GUI specifically, how do you feel intimidation level has been reduced, especially with the introduction of the latest version of GUI?
The older software, you had to open like 8 different windows. You had EQ window, you had crossover window, you had time alignment window. It was, for a lot of people, that was very time consuming. It was also for them that they felt it was rudimentary because it felt like they were using old Windows back in the day, like Windows 97 or something like that. And I think that had something to do with it, because you couldn't see, like right here, you can see what you're doing. You literally can see everything on one screen. Now, it can get busy. I mean, let's face it, when you look at this software and you don't simplify it and you don't use it, and I agree with Grant, you've got to go and you've got to get used to it. You got to play with it. Once you get to the point where you get familiar with this is easy. It really and truly is easy. It's not that hard to learn. I mean, it really isn't. It will take the intimidation factor out of it if you stay in basic mode. And this is where I encourage everybody that's thinking about using this, that wants to become a Mosconi dealer, that wants access, to all the great product that Mosconi is building. Stay in the basic mode, learn what the basic mode can give you, and listen to your results. Your results are going to be very positive, and that's just building confidence in your ability to use this. And confidence is everything. Once you're confident enough that you can actually tune the car, the results are really good and they're repeatable. Then once you're at that point, then go get out of the basic mode, go into pro mode, and start playing around with it. And you're going to learn a heck of a lot that you can make this car sound way better with just a little bit of input work. And by that means just get in there and start tuning.
Get her done, son. Get in there, basic mode, master the basic mode, and then spread your wings and go beyond. Nick, I can't thank you enough for coming in today. Really nice to see the new features. Really nice for you to walk us through exactly how simple that setup was. And, man, that invaluable information. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Anytime.
We'll talk to you soon.
See you, Nick. Thanks, buddy.
Lots of new features in that software. Anyone that you want to highlight that you kind of repicked and said, yeah, that's a really cool one?
The easy setup, it still resonates with me. I'll give you an example that maybe some install techs can relate to. I went one time to a Brian Schmidt class, okay? And I watched him do a template or build a rear deck panel in like a couple of hours live while he was teaching everyone how to do it. Just because I watched him do it doesn't mean I could go and do that again. You've got to practice on that router table multiple times to get the results that guy's got. So that's, to me, that's one thing that really, with whether it's ours or somebody else's DSP, if you're not practicing it, you're not going to get any good at it. The installers of the years didn't learn overnight how to use a router table and become amazing guru fabricators. They've burned up a lot of MDF, and I'm sure they've wrecked a bunch of vinyl trying to perfect their technique. So this is kind of the same thing. If you're not learning it or practicing it, don't expect the same results. So the easy setup, I think, is really cool because it gets guys that are intimidated with DSP, gets you damn close to what most customers would be happy with. And then you can hand it over to the guy with the golden ear, or have the customer come back in a week's time once the speakers are broken in a bit and do all the fine tuning on it. So to me, that's one thing. And then my favorite piece that I've had the honor to sit in Nalika's car a couple of times and listen to it is the new cross mix feature, which is another session we'll talk about. But it's crazy how different with it and without it. That car has got like 30 grand with a gear in it, so it should sound amazing, period, anyway. But just the difference in adding the cross mix with the center channel and adding in the rear speakers to it, that car sounded 4 feet wider and probably 3 feet deeper than it actually was. So again, that's a class for a different day. So
exciting because there's a lot more potential, and I know we just scratched the surface with that. Just real quick before I let you go, Grant, on the hardware side of things, what do you see going out the door that dealers are really finding success with as far as the gear is concerned?
We do a lot of standalone DSPs, and whether it's our amplifiers or someone else's amplifiers they're using with it, we sell a lot of standalone DSPs, but we're seeing more and more of this. The Pico product, because it does have decent power in here, like this is 80 watts by 8 built in, bridgeable power as well if you want to make it a smaller system, like front, rear subwoofer type of stuff. All in one chassis where it's going to fit in an OEM system really, really easy, whether it's underneath the seat, in the rear quarter panel, and it's all in one box. You've got the amplifier and DSP, everything built in. So this is really becoming a more popular unit. And we are selling a bunch of these Pico products in motorcycles as well. So doing like a 4 to 6 amplifier with maybe a monoblock amplifier in there for baggers. So Pico's really, really becoming a big seller. I can't wait for that Pro 830 DSP.
What a beast. Absolute beast. Well, if you want to stay in touch and you're tuned in here, we've piqued your interest with Mosconi. Check out their website, mosconi-america.com. And if you're a Canadian dealer, well, get a hold of the guys at Trends. Grant and his team are standing by. takeyourcall.com to open you up as the next Canadian Mosconi dealer. Grant, this was a fun one, man. Thanks for coming in and thanks for setting up with Nick.
Thanks, Ben. Always appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon. All right. Awesome session. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you enjoyed this, well, keep it locked right here on CMA Networks because all of July is all about DSP. We are deep into the DSP sessions, literally featuring every single brand in DSP right through to Thursday, July 28th. If you like this video and you want to see more videos of Nick, well, check out his profile page on our website, cmanetworks.com. You can look at all the videos we've done with Nick Wingate, as well as other brands or any other brands that Trends Electronics offers. Search them by brand or by category on cmanetworks.com. That's it for this CMA Workshops presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop it.
Today's the day where I'm going to go
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down. I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?